my life. My name is Chief Apostle Samuel Jr. I'm the apostle and pastor of Apostle of the Faith of Jesus Christ Incorporated, and my beliefs are deeply rooted in the ATRs. The ATRs are the African traditional religions by which we harness, direct, and disperse energy, frequency, and vibration. To each and every one of you guys, first of all, salutation to my madrina, to my padrino, to my oba, and to all of my brothers and sisters in the Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, the Kumi, Congo, Palo, Mystic, and Anjays. To each and every one of you guys that are here on these lives, they're for melanated people that really want to understand how magic is used. Real conjure, real mysticism, real Kabbalah, energy work. What's up, my Demetrius, my Gemini in the house? I want to say to each and every one of you guys, I go out my way a lot of times to give out information to help people that may have not been raised up with spiritual etiquette and not knowing how to give energy, also not knowing how to receive energy. What's up, my Boaz? Thank you so much for joining us. I know that many of you guys are at work. This is definitely my day of power. I'm going to go leaving momentarily, going to Tampa to participate in a crowning for Babalu Aye or Saint Lazarus. I want to say to my air signs, my water signs, and my earth signs, thank you, each and every one of you guys, for chiming in and supporting our lives and the things that go on. I want to say, what's up, my Ryan, my Cardinal Air? I want to say this is really, really important that if you're going to do any form of prayer work, any form of magic, whether it's in Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, Lakumi, and Congo. And I'm also going to explain it where from the simplest of us to the most educated of us will have a greater understanding when it comes down to magic, spirituality, and why these things I'm going to discuss are really, really important. Now, my subject is don't set boundaries you can't enforce. All over social media, in various of conversations, magical conversations as well as carnal or mundane conversations, people are telling and advising people to set boundaries in their relationships, set boundaries on their job, set boundaries with family members. And it all seems to be in good faith. But I want to go a little further. And I'm going to explain from an energetic perspective, especially if you're going to be doing any form of magical arts and practices of any sort. If you set a boundary of prosperity, a boundary of success, and you cannot enforce that, it is simply like the Bible said, you cannot spoil a strong man's house except you are able to bind him or her up. The reason why enforcement is important, because if you have to force that boundary, reinforce that boundary that you set with a person, a place, or a thing, or a spirit, that you have the force or you have the power to enforce that boundary. If you do not have the capability, sir and ma'am, you do not have the ache or the resources to enforce a boundary, how can you keep the enemy or anybody opposing your boundary from stopping them from violating that boundary? What's up, Mama Susan? What's up, Ron Brian? It is really, really important that you first understand what a boundary is, what that boundary is for, the purpose of a boundary. When you set a boundary, make sure that you're also thinking about, if somebody violates the boundary that I have set, do I have the capacity and the capabilities of enforcing it? And the word enforce means to utilize necessity or force in order to make something happen. The kingdom of God suffered violence, and the violent take it by force. If you are practicing magic and you have set a boundary for your health, you're set a boundary for your prosperity, you have set a boundary for your peace, you have set boundaries that you shall be the head and not the tail, above only. All these are boundaries. These are things you're declaring in the spirit realm, in the ethers. And this is what melanated people need to understand. In every culture, in every form of religion, somebody is indicating to you about boundaries. Somebody is discussing certain things that they're going to do. But if you cannot force, thank you for hitting the like button as you guys are chiming in. If you can't enforce your boundaries, if you can't enforce those boundaries, it's like I have a property boundary in my house, and legally, if my neighbor places something on my property, I can legally force them to remove it. I can ask, I can be cordial about it if I so choose. But the real truth is, I can force my neighbor to uproot a tree that he planted on my property. I can enforce that. When you are a spiritual man or woman and you are initiated or non-initiated, if you are setting boundaries of protection, if you're setting boundaries regarding the things that God has blessed you with, and you are not able to enforce it, then the enemy has the ability to come in beyond your boundary that you set and disturb your peace or disrupt your prosperity or invade your territory. And I don't think a lot of melanated people that, whether in Hoodoo, Voodoo, Santeria, Lukumi, Congo, Palo, Mystic, and Ajay, do not understand why it's important to have your tools. Why it's important to stay up on the things that you are doing. Understanding, listening to people that have spiritual strategy how to go about their magical endeavors and undertakings. Having a conversation, getting counsel or consultation with people that master in not only setting boundaries, but enforcing them. Because if somebody does not want to abide by your boundaries, can you go to the next step? If somebody disregards your boundaries that you set, can you go to the next step? And that next step is to force it. When you look at most police officers and their cars, they have law enforcement written on their car. That means they have the right to enforce the law. Law enforcement. Do you have spiritual enforcement? Do you have a spiritual team that can enforce your boundaries? The boundaries you have at your house, the boundaries you have on your car, the boundaries you have on your position on your job, the boundaries that you set in your businesses. Do you have a spiritual team? If you have a spiritual team, then are they equipped? Are you venerating them correctly? Are you giving them the proper ache, the chi, and the prana? What's up, my jelly sweets? Because jam don't shake like that. These are the things that I try to teach melanated people. Um, it's good to strive for things. It's true. It's good to want things. And when you set those boundaries or those perimeters around a person, a place, or a thing, the next level step should be, can I enforce, if sickness try to move in when I have set the boundaries for my health? Can I enforce or force sickness out the door? Can I force poverty out the door? Can I force an enemy that is trying to bind me out of my personal space? If I set the boundary for my peace, and if somebody is trying to disrupt or bring a spirit of confusion, can I force that energy, that frequency out of my said space, which is my boundaries? The stronger you become, the more capable you're going to be able to enforce the laws or the spiritual laws regarding your soul. I'm going to say that again. The purpose of elevation. What's up, Monique? The purpose of elevation and development is to become stronger in your energy, frequency, and vibration. Being developed more in one dimension and one space. Having more than one type of energy body. And in that ability, you're going to be able to set boundaries and then have the spiritual team to enforce those boundaries. Whether things happen to me out of things I have endeavored, or people try to bring into my life, my job, this is why we do cleansing. Cleansings help you enforce boundaries. Burning incense help you to enforce your boundaries. Lighting candles help you to enforce your boundaries. I have this TikTok creator, I call her Auntie, and we were talking about floor washes, and we were talking about mop water. You know, in the old time, because I grew up, you know, we had to put certain things in the water and mop the floors. Not only the floors in the house, but the floors in the businesses, because we were setting setting boundaries, but based off of the ingredients in that mop water, we were able to force or reinforce those boundaries. Boundaries of prosperity, or bringing clientele in, you know, people able to be drawn to our particular location. All of these are boundaries, but can you enforce them when somebody is trying to run your business away, or run your customers away, or run your members away, or run your godchildren away from you? Can you enforce the boundaries that you set around your godchildren, or your members, or your it doesn't matter what they do. What's up, Nisi? My Aries in the house. How you doing, baby? The reason why this is important, because I think it's too much emphasis on setting boundaries, and people are setting boundaries not understanding that everybody is not going to respect, honor, and abide by your boundaries. And so therefore, if he or she does not, or a group of people do not, do you have the capacity to keep them from binding up your strong man and not spoiling what God has for you? It's one thing for God to build a house for you and build a foundation for you, or set a table for you, but can you defend that table? Can you defend that prosperity? Can you defend that healing? Can you defend that relationship, that marriage, that business partnership? Can you defend the path that you're on? Because a lot of us are initiated and we're on paths in our particular tradition, but we don't have the necessary defenses to defend our path. Now, I've been under attack for my destiny. I'm going to say this again. People don't like their destiny, and they love my destiny and where God is taking me, and they're trying to destiny swap. So you have to be able to defend your destiny. Do you have the proper tools? Do you have the proper skill set? Do you have the proper awareness that it can actually be done? No less than defending against it. Are you aware when people are violating your boundaries? When people are tampering with your mind, when people are tampering with your emotion, when people are trying to tamper with your body, when people are trying to tamper with your business, do you understand? Can you enforce it? I have a lot of people that do the incense burn. That is their way of sending this signal in the astral realm of forcing any harmful energy that is set. Because one of my babies always like get her reversal, but when that energy is released for her, it forces any spirit or energy that is against her to be reversed and sent back to the sender. These are the reasons why our tools, why our cleansing, why our head washes, and why we anoint ourselves. Anointing yourself with essential oils, especially consecrated essential oils, help you force your boundaries, force your magnetism, because sometimes people are trying to block your magnetism and keep you from getting the things that you're trying to attract. And you have to be in a place due to your consecration or anointing yourself with oils or certain essential oils or roots, a Gregory bag. If you do a Mojo bag or a Gregory bag, it helps you to what? Force your boundaries. In life, having knowledge, wisdom, and understanding could help you force your boundaries. Being knowledgeable of your practices, knowing your destiny and the role that you play in this life, understanding your timeline, understanding your spiritual makeup, helps you and enables you, sir and ma'am, to force your boundaries, especially when people decide to violate those boundaries, cross those boundaries, or even defile those boundaries. That's why I love the oil you have. They help me a lot. It is so I think it's easier, not easy, but easier with Demetrius or anybody like him, because he's a worker and he has clients. So he sees the necessity of a lot of the teachings that I give, and he understands the value of receiving those teachings when a lot of you guys don't have that type of responsibility, and therefore you process the information that I'm giving very, very differently. And it's not because that you have any ill intent. It's because you don't have responsibility. When you're having a conversation or you're following somebody or you're engaging with somebody that has to have boundaries and has to reinforce those boundaries because of their position or because of their role or because of their title or because of their destiny. There are certain things as a wife you need to set your boundaries. and got to be willing to enforce those boundaries if you want a healthy relationship. There are certain things as the husband, certain things as a CEO, as a person living in these Americas. I'm talking to my melanated people of conjure and mysticism. In order to maintain your prosperity, your favor, and the things that God has for you, you have to have boundaries in this Americas, because they're all forms of racism and prejudice that will hamper, hinder, or block what you got going on. And you got to be able to force your boundaries, that I'm going to prosper in spite of your racism. I am going to be healed in spite of your ignorance. I am going to be the head and not the tail, in spite of your belief that you are superior to me. As long as you're not affecting my reality, believe what you believe. The talisman are enforced. Yes, Bo. Thank you so much, my Boaz. He said the talisman, those that got purchased talisman from my Ogun, Oshun, Obatala, my Fedifun Oya, and my Fedifun Shango. I had 5 talisman that I was given, they were purchasing. And those orishas, or those talisman, or any form of talisman or amulets, what they got, the evil eye symbol, depending on the energy and the consecration, it can help you enforce your boundaries to not allow envy or jealousy or somebody's mischievous energy to tamper with or hinder anything you got going on. This is not a sales pitch. This is universal laws. That's why I love how you teach us about enforcement of our boundaries. Thankful for my Shango. I know that's right. Because y'all know all of my Orishas are warriors. And now that I have Agayu, I'm working with black obsidian, black onyx, copper, because I want my tribe, I want people that are following me are able to enforce their boundaries. And the more tools, and especially those that got their egg on stick, let me explain something else. You can't protect yourself above what you're able. If a stronger man comes in, he or she is going to be able to bind up the strong man in your life and then spoil what God has given you. Not strengthening yourself, not evolving yourself, is only putting you in jeopardy of your boundaries being crossed. You can declare all the goodness that you want. Right now, I have clients and I have assholes with magic that try me. And you're able to enforce those boundaries. This is why people that get they have the effects of a return to sender, is because they could not penetrate those boundaries and it hit harder. Let me explain something to y'all about energy, frequency, and vibration. Spells, conjure, work hit harder when somebody is not able to cross your boundaries versus they are penetrating. Doesn't mean they broke through. There's different attacks and hits that you can incur that, but if they got you pinned down in the full Nessa, you can't help you. And let me say this. When you find yourself in a position spiritually that you have already taken in water, that you are already restricted, you're already bound by sickness, bound by financial calamity, bound by confusion, whatever, somebody jinx you, somebody curse you, somebody use root work, whatever. But once you are in the state where you're bound, you cannot help yourself. You have to seek help outside of you. If you allow yourself to get to a place where you are restricted, your roads are blocked, you are in a fog, you cannot help yourself. You have to, and this is why I tell melanated people, don't get broke. One of the things, whether you work with me or not, if you don't have finances, resources, not only you can't get your tools. I was talking to one of my new members of my tribe, and she just recently got her Apollo membership and her Orisha membership, and so she went out and got some of the things, or she had some of the things for her health. And I began not only to explain that she was on the right track, she didn't have the right potency. I'm going to say this again. You can have the right ingredient. You can have the right ingredient, but you don't have the right measure of potency to enforce what you're trying to accomplish. This is why I tell certain people when they ask me, Apostle Eli, what type of candle I need to get? I said, well, this candle you can get, but it's based on strength level. Depending on what you're going through, you might have to get somebody else might be able to get a $100 candle. But because of what you're going through, you need a $600 candle. Because you need the energy or the potency that is going to allow you to enforce your boundary. That's what people not getting. You can have black seed oil, but not have a potency, because people treat products just like they do in the spiritual community. They cut corners. They try to stretch things to make more money. Because the black seed oil that I purchased is $80 a bottle, and that does not include tax. And it has all of the black cumin seed out of Ethiopia. And because I'm a conjurer and a mystic, I understand location and the spirits of the land. But it has a potency of 4.6. That gonna get a whole lot done. A 3 will get a whole lot done. But definitely, so when I say extraterrestrial and that I'm utilizing my extraterrestrial energy, chi, and prana in my work, whether it's my cauldron, my impungos, or whether it's orishas or root work or hoodoo or whatever form of voodoo I do, the potency of my work helps me to enforce my boundaries on a whole nother level. And so that's what you're purchasing. That's what you're investing in, because you want to not only have prosperity, but you want to enforce that prosperity if somebody tries to come in and upset that prosperity. If I'm going at a pace of 80 miles an hour, I don't want to break my stride. I don't want to lose my momentum. And I don't want you, because you are envious or jealous or you're hating or you're insecure, I don't want none of your energy to take any velocity, any momentum that I have away from me. And therefore, that's why I do spell work and conjure work on certain levels. I hope that this is helping people, melanated people in particular. People don't have to change. Thank you for hitting that like button. People do not have to change if you can enforce your boundaries. People don't have to move differently if you can enforce your boundaries. People don't have to change at all. If you, certain man, are in a place, whether in Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, Lakumi, Congo, or Christian, when you have the ability, the capacity to enforce your boundaries, it's irrelevant what somebody is doing. It's irrelevant what somebody else believes. It's irrelevant what somebody don't want you to have. Because your boundaries can be enforced. And that takes work, that takes time, and that takes being tutelage. And that's what black people don't want to spend time in. Invest and put yourself in circles where people can tell you authentic information that's game changing. There are people saying, Apostle Ely, because of you, I was able to make some strong decision that changed the game for me. Everybody don't have that knowledge. Everybody don't have that wisdom. Everybody don't have that understanding. When you are striving in life and you got real problems, got real situations, and you find yourself, your back is against the wall. Let me say it like this because we on YouTube. If somebody in my Ogun, I have a bullet that can penetrate a vest, a police vest. When they wear those vests to protect their organs, I have a bullet in my Ogun pot that I got from one of my customers that I used to deliver to. I used to deliver the gun shop. So they always used to talk to me about their products. And he was telling me that this particular bullet, I said, can I have one? He said, sure. Did he know what I was going to do with that? I saw the magical, because there are certain people that think they got enough Ogun or Ogun Faray or Zarabanda because they're working with iron, that I got some shit will get right through your protection. Huh? Because everybody got protection of some degree or some measure. But there's some people out here, we got some shit to shoot through your protection. Get right through your garlic. Get right through your sulfur. That stuff that some of y'all got out here that you think that it has you what is it? That you cannot be penetrated. Depending on who you warring with, depending on who you fighting. You think you got the helmet of salvation on? I got some shit. I'm like Wolverine. I got the antimatter. I cut through steel. We have certain ingredients. We have certain tools that give us an advantage in our spiritual working. Depending on the level of the spiritual man or woman and what type of tools they have access to, they can force their boundaries. And your personal opinion is not going to matter. So I hope this really brought some clarity, not only the art of setting boundaries, but also the skills by which you're going to need to enforce those boundaries. Some of you got prosperity, some of you got health, well-being, you got a lot of good stuff happening in your life, but you don't have the necessary skills, or you're not getting the necessary tools to help you, or keep your tools on you to help you reinforce or enforce certain things. I drive around, I travel around with my herbs and my spiritual tools in the car. Because if I can be on a conversation, sometimes I'm talking to Mother Susan, and I'm getting hits, and I utilize my energy to enforce my boundary against those weapons that are being formed. You don't never know where you're going to be at and what's going on. Never get caught, like my sister like to say, with your pants down. If you are a spiritual practitioner, you always be prepared, because you never know when a spirit or spirits are going to attack. And they're not going to wait till you pull over to the side of the road. They're not going to wait till you get off the toilet. They're not going to wait till you stop having sex. They're not going to wait till you cash your check. They're going to attack when they see that you are the most vulnerable. And I admonish you, sir and ma'am, to be proactive and always be ready for whatever and whenever, so you're able to force your boundaries. That's all Apostle tell you. I'm a Sagittarius, Moon in Aries, and Rise sign Pisces. I'm not here to change your mind, change your direction. And I'm not going to change your draws. I'm here to talk to people that I'm resonating with. If you're ready to step to the next level and you want to enforce your boundaries of prosperity, success, or happiness, or peace, or health and well-being, have your tools and be ready to use your tools at a moment's notice. Sometimes, like Superman, sometimes you got to go into the bathroom to change. Sometimes you got to take a break. You need 15 minutes to handle your business and go back to doing what you're doing. Sometimes you got to stop the conversation to handle your business. Sometimes you're in the midst of a ceremony and you got to stop to handle your business. Sometimes you're about to make a deposit or a transfer and got to handle your business. But be ready to handle your business. That's all I'm saying. Don't let them get in there and bind you up. Don't let them pull the rope out. Don't let them pull the duct tape out. Because at that point, sir and ma'am, it's too late. You're going to have to call for help. You're going to send out a SOS because you in trouble. You got to know when you're in trouble. When you have to know when you don't let things get too far. And you can let things get too far because you limited in knowledge. You can't protect yourself from something when you don't know. When you don't even know certain things exist. A lot of things that if I wasn't talking about, people wouldn't have no idea. I'm making melanated people aware of certain things. I operate on a whole nother level. And I want to encourage you. This is my day of power. If you have not gotten your Oya candles, if you not, you're forcing your boundaries. The changes that have taken place that in your life that you like, you want to maintain them. And you want to make it as difficult as possible for somebody to intervene or interfere with those energy, frequency, and vibration. Do you understand? And I'm going to say this again. You have to understand that I am Chief Apostle Samuel Ely Jr. I have to have boundaries, And I have to be able to enforce those boundaries no matter who you are. That's why my mother is still on block. It is for her good as well as mine. And it has nothing to do with me not caring or looking out for my mother. In order for me to do what I do, she cannot have certain assets. Because she believes, because she birthed me in the world, she can do and say whatever she wants to say. And that is not true. And before I disrespect her, I'll block her. Boundaries are set and enforced for purpose. We don't set boundaries just to be setting boundaries. And we don't enforce boundaries just to enforce. There's a purpose and a reason why we do any form of conjure in it, any form of magic, any form of mindset, any form of financial investment. If you're going to plant seeds in the ground and then you don't think it's your responsibility to pay attention to the insect kingdom, and you wonder why when harvest time comes, the grasshopper, the locust, and the palmer worm all over the farting and full, because they've been eating off your harvest the whole time, and now you don't have 100-fold, you ain't got a 60-fold, and you ain't got a 30-fold, because you don't understand. You got to enforce boundaries. I'm a leader. I'm a leader in the spiritual community. And if I allow everybody to have all kind of access to me, then how I'm going to know and discern where the enemy coming from and who the enemy is using. And a lot of you guys don't understand. You have too much insecurity in you to be close to me. It's not going to take much for you to feel some type of way about the way God moves through me and how God favors me. The reason Minister Mario was able to be as close as he was to me is because he was secure in himself. He had things going on in his own life that he wasn't so amazed with my life that he wanted my life over his life. He was able to learn from me. He was able to grow and evolve and never disrespect me. Some of you right now, I can't allow certain assets because you're always looking for an opportunity to disrespect me, to disregard who I am because of how I talk. If my mother came in this live right now, there's some things I would not say. And you were saying, oh, Apostle Ely Chain, I'm being respectable because my mother's presence is in my life. Now, when she clicks off, I'm gonna go back to how I get down. If my father came up on me, I'm going to show respect. Don't get any of this confused. There's boundaries for your good as well as other people. And when you do conjure, energy out, energy in. Stop being offended. If I didn't have certain boundaries and could not enforce them, you would not be benefiting off my protection or my covering. I'll say that again. If I did not have boundaries and I did not have the power to enforce those boundaries, you would not have the benefits of my protection or my knowledge, wisdom, or understanding, or my cleansing products. What's up, Shamari, my baby? Sasha Fierce. The reason I am successful is because not only I have boundaries, but I can enforce them. Whether it's with my Padrino, Oba, because I am deep enough in Ocha or Lukumi or Santeria that as a Santero, I can enforce some shit. Too many of you setting boundaries and you ain't got enough weight to enforce the boundaries. You trying to put your foot down on other people's tile. Are you hearing me? You in the elate. You're not the elate. You're in the coven. You're not the coven. You're in the church. You're a member. You're not the council. Some of y'all have promoted yourself in your mind, in your ego, and think you got weight to enforce certain things. You cannot serve a man. Understand your real authority, what you have the capacity of doing, and why you are where you are in my leadership. I say this in love. Because you are able to run over your husband, run over your wife, run over your man or woman. Because you are able to bully your way in your family. Because you're able to manipulate your mother and your father and your brothers and your sisters. I applaud you. That's very good. But over here, that shit ain't gonna never work. And I'm going to enforce my boundaries. I don't care if it kills you. And when I say I don't care, I really mean. As a Sagittarius, Moon in Aries, rising sign Pisces, if you're gonna choose to violate my boundaries, whatever happens to you, have the day that you deserve. I don't argue with people. I just enforce my boundaries. I don't go back and forth with people. That's what my spiritual team is for. Because if you can override them, that means you can override me. And I ain't seen it yet. All right? I got to go to the church and then I'm going to get on the road. I gave you some solid teaching, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. Because you don't have boundaries, and if you do have boundaries, you don't enforce them, that's your business, sir. That's your business, man. But when it comes to a Chief Apostle Samuel Jr., whether I'm traveling, whether I'm in a whorehouse, whether I'm tossing salads, I'm going to enforce my boundaries. You're not going to catch me in any state of life. If I'm sick, I'm still going to enforce my boundaries. If I'm busting a nut, I'm still going to enforce my boundaries. Huh? I don't care where you think you're going to find me in life. You're not going to find me ill-equipped and unable to force my boundaries. I'll see y'all later. All right.